Most of the work you will see in this pack relates to a project funded by the Department of Children and Youth Affairs and in partnership between EPIC and Belong To. An advisory committee was formed between EPIC Youth Council members and Belong To members about how to raise awareness of the issues faced by LGBTQI+ young people in care or with care experience. All of the work produced by this committee is included in today's pack.
Hey, my name is Dillon. I've been on the EPIC Youth Council for 2 years now and I'm a social work student. This digital pack is full of information about young people's rights, the supports they can access and appropriate responses to some LGBTI+ issues from professionals. We have created an animated video as a resource for professionals and LGBTI+ young people in care. We shared this video for the first time at EPIC's recent LGBTIQ+ webinar for Care Week. To those of you who attended, thank you. We hope that you and your organisations find it informative and useful.
The video is intended to be a resource for LGBTQI+ young people in care and the professionals who work in this area, about the rights of the young people in care, how to access supports, respecting a young person's right to privacy and why consent should always be sought before sharing personal information. One thing we really wanted to stress was the impact of outing someone. In this pack, we have included both leaflets that were officially launched at EPIC's LGBTQI+ webinar. One for LGBT young people in care and one specifically for gender identity. When we were discussing in the groups, we found that there was a lack of availability of information and resources like these specifically for care experience LGBTI+ young people. One of the ways we use this opportunity was to highlight some of the disparities that exist sometimes. For example, the LGBTI young people in care in rural setting versus urban settings and the supports and access to resources that they would have. Another big part was also talking about residential care, how young people would have loads of different professionals around them in that setting compared to say foster care or kinship care or any other type of care. And we thought it was really important to kind of really make it clear in the leaflets that there are different types of care settings and there are like people are coming from completely different backgrounds and some information might not be applicable, but it's really important that we try to include everyone in this because care experience is such a different experience for every single person. These issues can be exacerbated if a young person is in care, as noted by certain members of our committee. Some issues highlighted through our discussions as a committee included who is the safest person to come out to in a professional setting, planning and preparation for coming out and how to safeguard in the aftermath. Being partners with Belong To on this project gave us an excellent opportunity to shed light on the diversity of identities, but also the experiences and specific challenges faced by LGBTQI+ young people in care. Our committee members experience these issues firsthand. Their identities and experiences are unique to them, but our discussions as a group led to our deeper understanding of the common issues arising for LGBTQI+ young people in care and in aftercare. We decided that the inclusion of up-to-date supports was crucial. We hope that anybody picking up these resources will feel more equipped in the planning, preparation and the aftermath of their coming out journey in the care.
Sections of both leaflets highlight the potential impacts of being outed. This was something that came up throughout every discussion we had at each meeting and how important that was to talk about because in the meetings we had found that it wasn't really talked about at all and we really needed to include that in the leaflets. Just the anxiety that it can cause if you come out to a staff member or a social worker or a foster parent and then suddenly that information is given to another person that without your consent. We thought that was for a lot of people it just breaks that trust immediately. We had talked about the difference between coming out to a best friend and how that would be safe with them but not with a social worker who you're meant to trust with everything. We also thought it was really important to highlight that young people in care have a right to privacy and should be required to give their consent before personal information is shared with anybody else about them. The committee discussed the damage it can cause to building relationships between responsible adults and young people in not respecting these rights that are enshrined in the UNCRC. Our discussions repeatedly came back to the idea that nobody should have to feel isolated or alone in grappling with questions about their sexuality or gender identity. Being in care and being a member of the LGBTI+ community individually can be very isolating, but when you combine these factors it can be even more so. A key message for us as a group revolved around the notion that we are all, every one of us, part of many tribes. The hope is that anybody picking up these leaflets would see themselves as part of a much wider community than just the narrow criteria associated with the labels being in care or LGBTIQ+ on their own.
We felt practical information is always helpful, so we included definitions of terms you may have heard before but don't know exactly what they mean. The committee discussed how this is linked to the need for ongoing engagement in training for professionals working in these areas. The layering issues related to being LGBTQI+ and in care highlights it as a very specific experience.
In both leaflets, we provided some of the rights included in the UNCRC that most appropriately relate to the experiences of LGBTIQ+ young people in care. What we also discussed and what we talked about that would be really useful in this instance is agreed upon standard policy among all professionals that young people will not be outed by who they choose to come out to. And as discussed in the groups, that just the damage that can cause and how important it is to agree upon that policy, that anything written in a young person's care file about them coming out should be that young person should give consent to that first. We discussed that being LGBTIQ+ is not a child protection issue, and it wouldn't be for anyone that wasn't in care, so why should it be written down in someone's file as a child protection issue? That young person chose you to come out to, not the whole office or a team, or for just a person that a young person has never met before. Or any other professional in their care situations, they shouldn't have access to that information, something so personal. Unless the young person has given consent to do so, it is private information, and it should be treated as such. We have included some useful links for resources from TENI, the Transgender Equality Network Ireland. There's also a link to some wonderful online training for professionals provided by Belong To. One key thing that we had spoken about, and we brought it up in the webinar as well, is just for professionals to really show that they are inclusive, and just to show you can't just assume that a young person is going to trust you by not saying it, by really just celebrating being LGBTI+, wearing something, a token, anything, just to really get across that if some person is ever going through coming out or feel like they want to come out, then they know that who they're going to say it to, it's going to be a positive welcome, Belong To has videos, exercises and quizzes to equip you to become better at listening to, understanding, responding to and supporting LGBTIQ+ young people, ensuring that you become part of the positive story in their lives.
Last but not least, Dylan and I would like to thank you all for taking an interest in these topics. Once again, we would like to thank our funders, the Department of Children and Youth Affairs, our project partners Belong To, those with whom we consulted and got advice along the way, including TENI, the Transgender Equality Network of Ireland, and Wonderworks, the graphic designers that work so diligently on all the materials included in this pack. We hope you found the contents of this pack informative and have an epic pride.
Thank you.